Hello and welcome. This is the Real Estate 360 show, and this is Steve Conley, hashtag unemployable, and
this is Jason O. Myles, hashtag the real estate trainer. Steve, I like when you bring us in. You know why?
No, why?
Because every time you bring us in, you sound a little bit like Harry Carey. Oh, this is Steve Conley here. I love it, man.
I'll reach in and pull out the radio voice and bring it in.
I don't know what we're doing here.
It helps to have, like 6 Millers, before you start a radio show.
Right. That's right. That's right. Steve.
Yes, sir, Mr. Jason O.
We have
Myles.
had a very interesting week in real estate.
Yeah, we sure have.
So, the weekly update with Steve Conley.
Okay, yes, yeah, right.
What do you got going on, man?
Well, a few weeks ago, I was talking about this one particular property that I had located through the networking group that I actually host. This networking group. It's called USA Business Connect, and you can find us on meetupgroup.com, and we're every Tuesday in Alpharetta.
It's the Alpharetta chapter.
It's the yes. We have one chapter, and that is the Alpharetta chapter of USA Business Connect. So there's one meeting.
That's right.
And you got to be there. And we're at My Stir Fry. So they give us, some space there, and so I'm going to plug them. My Stir Fry in downtown Alpharetta at 3 o'clock on every Tuesday. So this guy shows up, and he says, hey, of course, we introduce ourselves, and we do our spiel, if you will. And I said, I buy and sell houses. What else can I say? That's what we do. And so he comes to me afterwards and he says, I got this lady who really needs to sell her house. And I said, okay. And I said, tell me about it. He says, well, she really needs to sell it. And I said, okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
So I called her up and we ended up doing something. I write a contract to buy it. And it's a pretty unique house. It's totally renovated. She's been Airbnb in it. It's just to bring you guys up to speed. And looks fantastic. It's in the West End. It's right on the edge of the historic West End, so the value's strong there, in a up and coming area. And she's in trouble though, but because she's got a hard money loan on it. They've doubled her payments.
Yeah.
Now she's paying like $5,200 a month.
It's incredible.
Well, she's not paying it because she can't afford it.
Yeah.
But on a $250,000 loan, that's pretty high rate of interest.
That's pretty high.
And that's interest only.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And so she was Airbnb in it, to cover the monthly. And so there's people next door that just hang out. And they hang out on the porch. That's what they do every day. That's their living. I don't know how they do that, but that's what they do. Drink beer, they're kind of quiet. They don't bother anybody, but, it's not a great feeling for people who come in from the burbs or out of town, and they come into this place and they see these, guys, just hanging out.
Yeah.
And so she got 3 bad reviews on Airbnb. And so they cut her off. And then so now she's got no money coming in. She's got a $5,000 bill on this thing. She's got utilities and everything else. So then I show up. And she has it listed for too much money, bottom line.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, this is a pretty easy fix, right? Well, as I get into it, I found out nothing is quite as easy as it looks like, Oh, my gosh. It's like, okay, so I get Sammy involved, and he pulls the comps, and we say, okay, here's a realistic number to sell this at. So she had it listed for $360. We listed it for $325.
Right.
So that's a good number. We'll get this thing gone, get the mortgage paid off. Then she says, oh, by the way, there's a mechanics lien on this too. A mechanics lien, for $8,000.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, the mortgage balance is going up like crazy. Now I've got a mechanics lien, and then so we get a buyer. Great. So they negotiate the hell out of us,
Yeah.
And finally we come to an agreement, and they send an inspector over there, and I get a 50-page report from the inspector of things that are wrong, and they're thinking it's about $20,000 worth of repairs, and it would be for most people. You call the mold guy. That's $10,000, right there.
Mm-hmm.
You call the foundation guy. That's $10,000 or $20,000 because there's some things that aren't quite right with the piers and the joists and so forth. Anyway, I look at it and I say, "Oh, this is like, $4,000 or $5,000 fix,
right,
at the most." But bottom line is that blew them out of the water. So in the meantime, I'm looking at, okay, now I've got this report here, and all these repairs. And the realtor, Sammy, is like, "Oh, we lost them. They terminated." And I said, "Great." I'm thinking great because this is going nowhere anyway.
Right.
So I said, "Well, put it back out there. Let's go." And so we ended up with another offer, and again negotiations, but not quite as bad. And so we went back and forth. We came up with a better number, and they've agreed to, if we did the top stuff, the things that were kind of safety related, FHA, VA, safety related, electrical open wires and stuff like that, fairly minor, still a couple grand, worth of stuff.
Right.
And they would just take it, the crawl space as is. So, which was mold and some joists and some piers and debris and water intrusion, a good bit of stuff,
Yeah, it's a good bit.
So then over the weekend, Sammy calls, and of course the realtor we have is Sammy. Sammy from our sponsor here, our guest here on the show,
our superstar real estate.
That's right. So he calls me up, says, "Hey, the appraiser's over there," and he called me, and I was busy, and but he wants the code to get into the crawl space. He said, "I don't want to give it to him." I said, "Okay, what do you want to do?" He said, "Well, I want you to go fix it and then we'll give it to him."
Yeah.
And bottom line, we decided not to do any of that. We just gave him the code.
Right.
So let him go look at it. I said, "Look, Sammy, he's an appraiser. He's not an inspector.
Right.
He's over there to appraise the house. He doesn't have a sheet that lists the things that needs to be done. That's the inspector's job." We gave the second buyers the whole inspection report. Said, "This is it,
Yep.
Full disclosure," and said, we'll take it that way. We just want this house." They wanted it really bad. I mean, it was so bad that when I actually executed and signed the agreement, they started crying because they were so relieved.
Oh, wow.
Because I was waiting, I was like, there's so many things going on. The mechanics lien, the mortgage. I needed a mortgage payoff.
But that's all stuff you have to figure out, though.
Right, that's right. And I'm just the guy in the middle. I'm not even the owner. I've got the contract to buy it. But
right.
Just so there's a lot to this real estate investing.
So what happened?
Well, the appraiser went over, and I got a text this morning. Now, Sammy called me yesterday, and he says, "We don't have a COO." I said, "We don't need a COO. A CO. Not a CO.
Certificate of occupancy."
Right. I said, "We don't need a CO. We got the electric's on, the power's on, the water's on, everything's on. We're good. Leave it alone. We didn't need any permits. We're fine."
Right.
He said, "Well, I got to call the city." I said, "No. Why would you do that? Have you ever seen a hornet's nest? Do you want to go kick the hornet's nest? Because if you do, you're probably going to get stung."
Right.
I said, "Don't call the city. We're good. We don't need to do anything there."
That's right.
And he said, okay, I won't call the city. And then and then he texted me this morning and said, "Appraisal came back. Everything's good. We're closing on the 10th.
That's right.
And they said, "All we have to do now is negotiate the mechanics lien." And I've already started on that. I think that's going to go okay. We'll see. And we're good.
There it is. And this has been what, a few months in the making?
Yeah.
6 weeks,
8 weeks.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad at all, I must say.
Yeah.
We have another house that's similar.
Yes.
In terms of, it's a great house, but it's across the street from people that just like to hang out.
Oh, the Arlington Street Social Club.
Yes. Yes. They've started renovating the house next to the vacant lot that they hang out in.
Oh.
So I go over there the other day, just to check things out and make sure that, we're doing the bushes and the shrubbery and all that great stuff. And the landscaping.
Yeah.
And one of the guys from across the street comes over. You know, he keeps an eye. He stays. If you're staring at the house, he stays to. You remember the guy that bought the 18 unit? He also bought that house from us to the right of Arlington.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, so he lives in that house.
I was meeting with him yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he watches the house, makes sure, you know, as best he can anyway.
Sure.
So when I went over there, though, he was at the social club. And he comes over and he says, you know, gives me the report.
Is this the young guy or the older fellow?
The older fellow, the kind of burly, tall guy, looks like he used to play football.
Okay.
Right? So he's got a pellet gun, you know. He's shooting squirrels and pigeons in the neighborhood. Why? Just to do it. So I'm talking to him, and he goes away. I get a phone call. I'm on the phone, and he goes, and he's leaning on one of the pillars, because the house that we have has those posts, those pillars.
Right.
So he's leaning on this thing, and he's, you know, you hear him, you know, the little air sound from the pellet gun. So I'm turning away from that, and I'm walking away from him, talking on the phone, and literally a pigeon falls from the sky right in front of me. Oh, he shot a pigeon out of the tree.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, man, you know, we're selling this house. You can't shoot squirrels and pigeons.
I know.
You know, you got to take it easy. I mean.
You know, the image that came up was he Dances with Wolves movie where the guy's shooting at the wolf.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it was.
But why? You know, why would you do that?
I mean, he was having fun, I guess. I don't know, but it doesn't work for what we're trying to do. You know?
No. You know, we're coming up on a break, but at the next segment, I'd like to talk about our fantastic seminar that we just did.
Yeah, let's do that.
And what's coming up.
Let's do that.
We'll buy your house. Click 833willbuy.com. That's 833WELLBUY.com.
Or call 833-WILL-BUY.
Se habla español. Llámanos. Call us today.
And welcome back.
Welcome.
Sorry, I didn't mean to yell.
Oh, no, they needed it. People needed to wake up after that break. You know, who knows what commercials they were forced to listen to.
I'm telling you.
You know?
Well, what are we talking about this segment? I mean, we talked about a few things in the break.
Well, I want to take a moment, and I want to thank all the listeners out there for taking the opportunity to listen to our podcast and download the segments.
Yeah.
And comment and share as you're doing. Please continue to do so, and thank you so very much. But in the event that you haven't, please go to whatever podcast service you utilize and download the Real Estate 360 podcast. Subscribe. Share, communicate with us, let us know what you like and what you don't like, because we like to talk about you guys when it's just Steve and I.
And if you don't, yeah, that's right. And if you don't have a specific, podcast that you like, just go to realestate360show.com.
Right.
And our videos are right there. The videos of the show, you can watch us or you can just listen to us. And our next event is listed right there on the front page.
That's right. Now, we just had a really, really, really good event.
Yeah,
Steve.
we did. What was
it? It
was
fantastic. It was a multifamily
it was
evaluation kind of thing. But we talked a lot more, not about the evaluation, but about the numbers, what those numbers actually mean. What does a cap rate mean? What are debt coverage ratios, and how does it apply to what you want to do? How do you determine the present value of a property? How do you know if it's going to fit into your financial fold? So we went over all those numbers and equations, and I know that kind of sounds, mathy, right?
Yeah.
But there's just no way to get around the math on something like that. But we simplified it as best we could.
You did a fantastic job on that, and we have something else coming up. But with commercial, it's not about who bought the next building across the street and so forth. Well, it is a little bit. A little bit. But really the valuation for commercial is based on the numbers. So you've got to go through the math. You have to do the math.
That's right. What's the rent? What's the market rent? What's the current rent? All those things actually matter. What are the bills looking like?
Right.
A lot of people kind of guesstimate, those numbers, and specifically the taxes. People always miss that one in multifamily. The taxes on the property when you bought it are going to be different from the taxes that I pay when I buy it from you.
Absolutely, because this county or city is going to look at that unless you're paying less.
Exactly.
Which is not likely.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
But it's going up, so we always have to keep that in mind. And it sometimes can be a very dramatic increase.
Mm-hmm.
Not a 10 or a 20% increase. Sometimes it can be double.
Right.
And some people aren't really ready for that sometimes,
mm-hmm.
Because they haven't calculated for it. But, knowing what those things are supposed to be, it was solid. We had standing room only in this event.
I know. It was like jam-packed.
Loved it, And, of course, we like it when people are coming and they're listening and they're leaving there with information. In fact, there were unions that were created there, relationships that are currently developing out of that particular event. People came together and are starting businesses together now.
Right.
Out of that meeting.
And there was literally millions of dollars in the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be invested or to create opportunities with.
And that money was looking for an opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I hate to sound so dismissive or so, it's the money, but it's the people, it's the relationships, right? You're building and developing relationships with people because, listen, if you've got $1 million that you want to deploy, you want to put it somewhere, but you're financially astute. You're not just a guy with, $1 million that you won the lottery, but So if I come to you and I say, look, I need 100,000 at 8% for a year, you're like, okay, that's $8,000. You're probably not going to do that.
Right.
Right.
It's the risk reward ratio is not big enough.
It's not big enough.
Right.
But if I use the exact same thing, but add a zero and say, listen, you got $1 million, I will pay you 8% a year. Now we're talking about 80,000. Now you're in your mind, you're like, okay, what can I do with 80 grand next year that I'll make this year? So even though it's the same, I found that it's a lot easier to raise $1 million or $5 million than it is to raise 100,000 or 200,000 for, the single family stuff, right? Even raising money for the single family stuff, I learned when we were doing it that we need to add a zero. 25,000 a clip wasn't going to cut it.
No.
We needed 100,000, 200,000, $500,000, because the people with money are looking at what you said, the risk versus the reward. Is it worth it for me to make, $5 or $6 grand or 50 or 60 grand?
The due diligence, the paperwork, the recording, the closing, all are the same.
Yeah.
If you're doing a $10,000 deal or you're doing a $10 million deal.
Right.
It's the same.
It's the same.
And so now your rewards are there.
That's right.
To cover those expenses all of a sudden get pretty small. With a $10,000 deal, those expenses are huge.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because if you think about it, just throwing numbers out there, let's say that you're expecting a $10,000 profit on a wholesale deal, but you've got to do a double closing. So you've got all these closing costs, attorney fees, and we'll talk about not the special rates we get, but the regular,
sure,
prices that most people would actually pay. They're going to pay anywhere between $600 and $1,000 for the legal fees, title insurance, title search, all this stuff. Some of the fees, you're not going to pay, but it could cost you, a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, $1,500, $2,000.
Right. Which in this case
and
is
more,
20% of your profit margin.
Yeah, or more if, you're having to borrow the money even short term, do a transactional loan, depending on the back end financing. There's a lot of little nuances.
A lot of little things. That's right. But you're 100% correct.
Yeah.
Aside from that, let's say you're doing the same thing with a $100,000 profit margin, it doesn't even have to be a multifamily, just whatever kind of commercial or, generally you're not going to be making $100,000 on a flip, but
not generally,
not generally.
It's been done
on a single family flip.
Yeah.
Generally, no, you're not going to, but if you're going to make $100,000 on a deal, those costs, just to your point, are still going to be $2,000.
Right.
Now it's 2% instead of 20%.
Exactly.
You got a lot more room there to kind of wiggle and do things. So it's not about what the deal, but you know what? Again, it's because people are afraid of money that they don't go and get it. In all honesty, they don't.
You're right.
People are afraid of it. They're afraid to have a conversation about money.
They're afraid they don't know what they're doing and they're going to lose it.
A lot of time before they even get it.
That's right.
We have conversations with people. We've got another agent that we work with. I mean, she does very well for herself, but she's stuck in this $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 profit point. She's stuck there. Now, I'm not saying that's a small amount of money. It's not. That's great. That's great money, and especially when you're doing it every time. Right. But there's no leveling up for her. So when we're having a conversation about we're raising $1.5 million for this, we need 100,000, we need 200,000. We're looking for investments for this, whatever the case.
Yeah.
For her, those conversations she gets scared. She literally crawls into her shell. You can see her balling up, cringing at the thought of $1 million deal, let alone a $5 million deal.
Oh my
I talked to her about this, $2.5 million deal that we're doing.
Yeah.
And she just was like, I can't understand it. I mean, those numbers are so big. They're so big. And it's nothing. I mean, if we're talking about all we did was add a zero to something that she is familiar with. And I don't know how to explain it any other way. We can talk about $200,000 houses, $500,000 houses all day long. Her sweet spot is anywhere between $225,000 and $350,000. That's where she likes to be. Yeah. We're simply adding a zero.
People know what they know, and they fear what they don't know.
Yeah, but you got to get comfortable with talking about money.
Yeah,
money we all have to have it. When I get a bill, Steve.
Yeah.
When bills come in my mailbox, I rejoice.
That's right.
I do. I do. Because, one, I'm happy to be able to pay them.
Yeah.
Right? But more importantly than that is the attitude that I'm putting out there.
Of course.
If I'm dreading opening the mailbox, there's going to be another bill. It's always going to be something negative.
And they will proliferate when you do it that
Absolutely.
way.
It will just get worse. So we get to choose how we want to think and feel.
Yeah.
And that's why I rejoice at the bills. I'm very thankful that I get bills, that I can pay them, that I'm in a situation where I can take care of my family, whatever the case, but I rejoice. I'm happy when I see my bills coming in. I've got a special place on my desk for my bills.
That's great.
So I can look at them.
We're again coming up on a break, and when we do that, I want to talk about our next seminar that we have coming up, what it is, and all the good stuff that we're going to give these folks.
That's right. Hey, you remember that cartoon with the big baby in the diaper?
Yeah.
And I will love him, and I will hug him, and I will name him George. Those are my bills. Let's take a break. Do you need to sell your house? Well, our company will buy your house. We make the process very fast, very easy, and it's all cash. All you have to do is give us a call today.
We'll buy your house. Click 833willbuy.com. That's 833WELLBUY.com.
Or call 833-WILL-BUY.
Se habla español, llámanos, call us today.
And we're back. Hello, Steve.
Oh, hey, Jason.
Long time no see.
Well, okay.
Feels like 2 or 3 minutes since I've seen you last time.
That's probably. I don't know. They went on the break. We didn't. We've been sitting right here the whole time.
So, Steve.
Yes.
I think we should share with the people our thought process.
Yeah.
What is going to go into our next event? What are we going to talk about on our next event? Because we haven't discussed it yet.
We have not. And by the way, our next event is March the 21st. That is a Saturday.
Yes.
And again, it's from 10 to noon.
Yes.
2 whole hours out of your day. $27 this time.
$27.
We're having to get a bigger room, honestly. That's what it boils down to.
And I want to just take a moment and thank the listeners. Thank you for everyone that is coming out to get some of this, because really, it's not that they're just supporting us. They're supporting their dreams and they're getting behind. They're taking action in the things that they really want to do for their life.
Right.
And as we've been doing these events over the course of a little over a year now.
Yeah.
We've seen the audiences kind of increase and being able to see people come together. And it's not that we're creating the opportunity, but we're creating an environment for the opportunities to flourish.
Exactly.
When you're coming to get information, and it's real information, and anyone who comes to our events, we haven't pitched them on anything. We're giving them real, actionable information, things that they can leave there and utilize. People are feeling so good at the end of the event. We stayed there outside.
Yeah.
For 3 more hours.
Really?
Just talking to people.
Oh, that's right. We did, didn't we?
Yeah, I think you stayed for 2.
I did. I had to go.
Yeah. But the whole point of it is these are events where you're going to come in and you're going to get real information, stuff that you can put to work right now. You're going to meet people that you can work with right now.
We don't take half of the time to try to sell you another seminar.
No.
There's none of that.
We only take a quarter of the time.
No, we don't even do that. and this is, people are like, wow, this is really different.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point. This is really different. It's not going to a rah-rah session at all. It's just there. We're just there it's like going to the training that you thought you paid for when you paid $2,000 or $3,000 for the free seminar, like you always say.
The free $2,000 seminar, right?
Right.
That's the sizzle. We have no sizzle.
Yeah.
No sizzle here. It's just steak and potatoes.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so one of my favorite comments is, wow, I got more information out of this 2 hours than I did the 3-day seminar that I went to that I paid $2,000.
Absolutely. And that's what we aim for. We're like like incubators, if you will.
So why do we do it that way? I mean, what are we doing?
We're creating a community.
Yeah.
We're creating an environment for people, again, to flourish. We want to have people to work with over time. The more people we can help, the more we can do.
Yeah.
And that's what it all boils down to. I mean, what's the purpose of having all this information if we're the only ones using it?
Right. And we know that when we put it out like that, it will come back to us.
Everything reciprocates.
It does. And, I was doing seminars for a while back down in Florida for 3. I did the 3-day seminar.
Yeah.
And I had a national radio guy promoting it for me, and it was $1,000 for the 3 days. It was a couple decades ago, so that was a lot of money.
I still have the MBA PowerPoint.
Well, no, this is way before that.
Really?
Oh my God. No, man, this was way before. I didn't know you still had that.
Yeah. I like it. It looks good with the big emblem on.
Oh, no, I was doing this. This was down in Tampa, Clearwater, Tampa, and I had Sonny Block, who was on 167 radio stations promoting the Guerrilla Real Estate Investing Seminar in Florida.
Yeah.
So we had it out on Clearwater Beach. And I said, okay, I'm going to make some money in this real estate seminar business.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found out was, I made some money at that, but the real value was in what we call the back end, if you will, the relationships that were developed out of that, and the people that we got to work with, and what we could do collectively as a group as a result of being brought together through those seminars. And that's what we're doing now.
That's exactly
so now
right.
Instead of charging the $9.97, we're charging $27.
Correct. Because we're local. We're talking about things locally, but you can do this everywhere. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing, single family, multifamily. We talk about it all. We talk about raising money. We talk about negotiating. We talk about everything everything real estate related, hence our name, Real Estate 360. All these things. We talk about business development, what you need to do to structure your business correctly for what business you're doing.
Right.
Because you could be an individual that's doing a wholesale business, or you can be a partnership that's doing a wholesale business. It's 2 different structures.
That's
right. It doesn't, you just have to know what your options are, and we just bring that to the table. Now, on our next event, we have to really get into the evaluation of multifamily.
Well, the whole purpose of the numbers and the evaluation
yes,
is
I like how you enunciated that.
I've slipped into my pre-show 6 Miller beer voice there for a second. That's right. The whole purpose of the numbers is so you know what you're looking at when you see one, so you know you've got a good deal, a bad one, or or something in the middle.
Absolutely.
And without those numbers, you're running blind.
That's right. And listen, when you're buying this, you're buying a multifamily, anything really, but you're buying it for sure with the end game in mind, your exit strategy in mind.
Right.
When you're buying commercial real estate, period, the conversation that you have with a lender is totally different than the conversation that you have with a lender on a single family.
Absolutely.
They want to know what your exit. How long do you plan on having this? 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years? Do you want any IO, interest only? Can you get it? All these things are, because if you get interest only for 1 or 2 years, then it's going to, in year 3, going on, your financial structure will be different. So how are you going to depreciate this property? That's part of the conversation because it affects your hold time.
Right.
So your exit is a part of your acquisition. Your exit strategy is a part of the acquisition.
It has to be.
It has to be.
Yeah.
So you have to know how you want to exit this thing as well.
The lender wants to know how they're going to get paid.
Well, yes, exactly, because they'll have if you're saying that you want to have this thing for, let's say, 10 years,
right?
They might put prepayment penalties in there for the first 3 to 5 years,
right?
So if you really want to have it for 7 years, you're going to have a different financing model,
and they want to know how much to charge,
of course,
and how they get paid.
Exactly. So these things are ridiculously important to understand, and it goes into the evaluation. Are you repositioning this deal? Meaning, are you buying it to fix it and flip it? And what do you need to look at? Timelines. For something like that. Are you going to do it in 3 months? Maybe. Is it going to be 3 years? More than likely. It depends on the market cycles and where we are inside them. Right. All of this matters. So these are the things that I think that we really need to talk to people about, because multifamily in particular is becoming a very, 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 very popular topic.
It is.
And we know that when that happens, there's going to be these massive, I won't say any names, but I guarantee you that someone is going to have a 3-day event specifically related to multifamily, with guaranteed financing.
Like Real Estate 360 show, maybe?
No, it's just, it's just a situation that's going to turn into a bunch of people spending $50,000 to have a lot more questions.
Right. Okay.
And if that's not where you want to be, if you don't want to go to yet another, free $2,000 seminar and spend 3 days in a room where you learn nothing, you literally come out with more questions.
On that topic, if I may, give the listeners a little bit of a look into the future for us.
Absolutely.
So that means we're going to do some 3-day seminars around the country.
Absolutely.
They're not going to be $2,000 or $3,000. They're going to be in the hundreds of dollars. We don't really have a price on it, but
correct.
Obviously somebody has to pay for the room and the rentals and some transportation and stuff like that.
Right.
But
the difference is we're not going to have a $50,000 package at the end of it.
No, we're not.
You're going to get information.
Yeah.
You're going to get deals. Well, not necessarily deals and deal flow. We wouldn't promise anything like that, although there are companies that do. But you have to get out here and do the work. But you will be able to create and develop relationships in those rooms.
That by itself is worth whatever we're going to charge.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to take that to the next level, which will be maybe a 5 or 7 day retreat type situation.
That's correct. And that has everything to do with not just the multifamily business, but business in general, and creating further developing relationships with people that are in your same situation. Because listen, you might be in the multifamily, I might be in the multifamily, you might be in the multifamily, but that's just where we put the money that we make from other places. what else you do. You might have a car lot that I want to invest in that you're looking for. You might have grocery stores or whatever.
But let's take a break.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Hi, this is Sammy with Sammy Hadid Real Estate Keller Williams. Are you looking for a top producing agent who will look out for your best interests? Top dollar on the sale of your home, a well-negotiated contract, an efficient closing? Please call me at 305-978-4249. I'm more than happy to set up a consultation. I'll put together a proposal for you to net top dollar for your home, what it is that I'm doing to get all my homes sold. Then you can decide what's best for you. Again, I'll do whatever it takes to get your home sold for top dollar, and I promise you that I will protect your equity with my life. 305-978-4249. Sammy Hadid, Hadid.
And welcome back. It is, of course, Real Estate 360 and the real estate360show.com. Jason O'Miles, what is going on?
You know, Steve, we talked about the community that we're building, and, we're talking about multifamily, single family, all that stuff is really great, but multifamily in particular is really great where we are in the region that we're in for several reasons, sir.
Let me just back up. We are not divorcing single families at all. We have tons of information about single families. That's what we've done for decades.
Right. And we're not stopping. So when we do seminars, we're going to be doing really still most of them on single families. Correct.
But right now, we're excited about multifamily. For sure. And so we want to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we're seeing what's going on here, there's been recent changes to laws in New York and California that maybe some of our listeners are familiar with, maybe some of them aren't. But in New York and California, they've capped how much percentage-wise rent can go up on a person on an annual basis, which has in many ways forced a lot of investment dollars out of those very, very expensive areas, right? People buy stuff in New York and California, the big multifamily buyers, that is, generally when they're going in, they're negative. It's what they get over time that they're excited about.
Right.
But when you cap it.
And you've got the valuations that can go up, but if you cap it.
Yeah, and it's capped at 5%.
Takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah, for them, for sure.
Yeah.
Because you saw, L.A. County, there's, 60, just in L.A. County, there's 60,000 homeless people, however they register that number, but 60,000 homeless people, 35,000 of them are working professionals that can't afford to live in the county.
Oh my gosh.
Over half of the homeless people in LA County are working professionals because of an average 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom is $2,500 a month. $2,500 a month. If you're making $60,000 a year,
yeah,
you're done. If you're a teacher, forget it. Okay? So, they get gym memberships so that they can shower and they sleep in their cars. And they have, there's these safe parking spots that are started by nonprofit organizations. Some of them are church and others. They buy these lots so that people can come there and park and be safe.
And they've seen an uptick in sales for minivans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the problem there is the cost of living. So when you have something that's $2,500 and it goes up 10% next year and you can't afford it now, in some cases in San Diego, you had 18% annual increases. Now they didn't stop it for the single family because it's totally different, regulations there. But for multifamily, they couldn't stop it. So that's the law.
Did they cap the rate in which the taxes go up?
They did not.
5%.
They did not, but that was part of the argument, for the people that were lobbying against this law. Right. And who knows? Maybe the law will be changed. But for right now, it is what it is. And those dollars.
Can they cap the rate at which professional people like plumbers and electricians and people that fix apartments, can they cap that rate too?
They haven't.
Are we talking fascism here? I'm just asking.
A lot of people are very unhappy with it.
Well, yeah.
Right?
But that's okay. As long as it doesn't happen here, we get the benefit of that.
Well, they're talking about it possibly happening here because those dollars are coming here.
Right.
Those investment dollars from New York and California are coming here.
Right.
And we have been witnessing this firsthand. We've watched properties go for twice as much as they're actually worth, or close to it. You know, we've watched that, and we'll continue to see that.
Well, they're going for twice as much as what we think they're worth.
Well, it's worth what it's worth, right? You know,
they're paying what they think it's worth.
But it's different. You know, I mean, it's totally different. It's like in 10, in 9 and 10 and 11, when the hedge funds were paying way too much for properties, we could not compete with them because we know it's not worth that. But their strategy was different, a longer game strategy. It's the same with these. If they're paying, you know, $5 million for a $3 million property, or even $4 million for a $3 million property, we know they're overpaying, but they have a longer exit strategy. Right. So if they can go up on the rents 10% a year, because that's what's happening here, 10%, 10%, 10%. And the population is growing. Yeah. You know, we're not seeing high vacancy rates for these, you know, A-class buildings that are going up right now. Mm-mm. You've got tech companies that are coming to Atlanta left and right. You've got people in New York, 174 people a day are leaving New York.
Amazing.
The 5-borough area.
And you were talking about the percentage of vacancies in New York?
Well, we were talking about that with one of our producers.
Yeah.
You know, half of Manhattan is vacant.
Amazing.
You know, and those vacancies are coming because, you know, you used to have Millionaires Row.
Yeah.
Over there, Fifth Avenue, Park Avenue. You had Millionaires Row. Now it's called Billionaires Row, and that's for real. You know, you're looking at 1,200 square foot apartments, $1.8 million, $2 million, $3 million. We've got a friend who has an apartment complex in Chelsea that's worth $2 million a unit, and they're tiny.
That's $2 million per apartment.
Per apartment.
And they have how many apartments in there?
54 unit building. You know, I mean, it's absurd.
$108 million.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd. And the average person I had a friend from here in Atlanta. He was a bus driver for MARTA. True story. He's a bus driver for MARTA. Single guy, no children. He's like, you know, I want to travel a little bit, but I got to work. So he gets a job with the New York Metro to drive a bus in New York. And they're paying him $98,000 a year for a job that he was making $50,000, I think, here. And he was like, man, I'm making $100,000 a year. He was excited. And I'm telling him, do not get excited. It's right. Not the same. Your taxes are going to be higher there for one. Your living expenses are going to be higher. And
a lot higher.
And forget your car.
Yeah.
Don't even take your car because the insurance is going to be ridiculous.
And park the car.
Forget about it.
That's an apartment here. That's an apartment rent here to park your car.
$200 a week.
Oh, that's not bad.
A week for a parking spot.
Well, okay, $800 a month. That is an apartment here, 2-bedroom.
Yeah, and that's a good deal. Okay, $200 a week just to park your car, a car that you're not going to drive much because you live in Manhattan. You know, it's foolish. Okay, so but he takes the job. He's excited. He goes up there. He doesn't believe anything I'm telling him. You know, he gets a small place in Queens because that's all he could afford. But even that was $2,000, and then you have to fight for a parking spot. So he sees that insurance has gone ridiculously high. It's through the roof, right? So he decides that he doesn't want to drive his car. Smart, because he's got he's
got a bus.
Yeah, he's a bus driver. He's got a career-long Metro pass, right?
Right.
So he's taking the bus and the train everywhere, and he's doing his thing. But he realized very, very quickly, you know, he's taxed out the wazoo. He was making his $98,000 a year job was worth less than he was making here. His quality of living went through the floor. It wasn't worth it. So he obviously came back home.
Yeah, sure.
You know, but that's the point I'm trying to make. Someone offers you a $100,000 a year job in one of the most expensive cities on the planet. It doesn't mean anything. You can't afford to live there. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't if you're an average income earner, which is different from place to place.
So a 98, 96, whatever it was, that's an average income earner.
That's barely making it in New York.
New York, right.
It's barely making it in New York. It's barely making it.
It's not.
Can you imagine?
Perspective. So the people from New York and California, they're used to a lot higher taxes.
Yeah.
And they're used to paying a lot more for their multifamily. And they come to Georgia and they say, oh, my gosh, this stuff is dirt cheap.
That's right. It's all perspective.
Yeah.
And they're buying it up. And the more companies that come here and the more people that are trying to get out of, the concrete jungles.
Yeah.
Right. They're coming here. Yes, we have more trees, but, it's our city is becoming more vertical by the day.
Yeah.
And some people really enjoy the progress, I can live in Midtown and I can walk everywhere. I can walk to the grocery store, to the cleaners, to this, to that. And that's going to be commonplace for us over the course of the next 20 years. You're going to see that. Yeah. We're already seeing, I was having a conversation yesterday with one of our attorneys, and we were talking about how Buckhead and downtown used to be these two separate things. And now if you're looking at it, they're just growing together.
Yeah.
Just growing together. Midtown popped up, which is just outside of downtown, but it's going into Buckhead, and Buckhead is coming down here. Buckhead is now the financial center for Atlanta, which used to be downtown, at the towers. Mm-hmm. And everything has changed in 20 years, just 20, 25 years. It's just massive growth, and there's absolutely no sign of that stopping because of what this city is.
We don't have any, natural barriers on any side of this city. There's not an ocean on the East Coast.
Yeah.
It's all open land, and there's a ton of it. So
that's right.
There's just huge opportunities here.
So we have to prepare people for it. Single family homes are going to get very, very expensive. A lot of people are going to be renters for a while, right? And until they can save up their money and buy the house that they can afford. That is going to continue. So people have to understand, as investors, we have to understand the options that are in front of us and where we're really going to get the most bang for our buck, our investment buck.
Right.
And for me right now, multifamily is that place. Single family, we know how to do that. We know how to do it's like breathing.
Yeah.
For us.
Right.
But multifamily, you get bigger hits. There are going to be people that grow into that, and we want to make sure they're growing into it with the right information.
Absolutely.
So make sure you subscribe to the podcast, Real Estate 360, and share your information with us. And we look forward to sharing more information with you.